Assalamualaikum everyone, I'm Afnan Tahmir from PsycHelp. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you what lies in the core of psychology and how psychology might be quite different than you think. I'm a psychology undergrad student at University of Dhaka. As a psychology student, I've always found psychology a very underrated discipline considering how much impact it has on every aspect of our life. To understand it, let's take a look at the mental health statistic of Bangladesh. National Mental Health Survey Bangladesh 2018-19, conducted by National Institute of Mental Health, shows that nearly 17% of adults in Bangladesh are suffering from mental health issues, and among them, 92.3% do not seek medical attention. According to the survey, 14% of children aged between 7 to 17 years suffer from mental health issues, and 94.5% of them do not seek medical attention. So we can see that among the adults, only 7.7% of those having mental health issues actually address their problems and seek help, whereas among the children, this rate is even lower, only 5.5%. But the matter of hope is that people these days are becoming more and more concerned about their mental health. Mental health experts are playing significant roles by expanding their activities in this regard. But mental health is only a slice of one part that makes psychology as a whole. It is a very broad discipline. There is so much more to psychology apart from mental health. It is everything about human behavior, right from the neurons, how they connect to each other, forming networks, all the way up to why people behave differently, why people are the way they actually are, and also the ability of individuals to live with other individuals, and so much more. If we take a look at the subject matters of psychology, you'll get a clearer idea of what I'm talking about. Perception. Perception is defined as the continuous sensory experience. As we are looking at these two pictures, they are represented as electrical signals in our brain. When these electrical signals are transformed by our brain to the experience of seeing the picture, perception is at work. With the knowledge of perception, many of the everyday experiences that we take for granted, such as tasting food, listening to someone talking, can be appreciated at a deeper level. The knowledge of perception is applied to medical fields, such as in developing devices to restore perception, to people who have lost vision and hearing, and treatments for pain. Other applications include robotic vehicles that can find their way through unfamiliar environments, speech recognition systems that can understand what someone is saying, and highway signs that are visible to drivers under various conditions. Cognition. Imagine all of your thoughts as they were physical entities, swirling rapidly inside your mind. How is it possible that the brain is able to move from one thought to the next in an organized, orderly fashion? The brain is endlessly perceiving, processing, planning, organizing, and remembering. It is always active. Yet you don't really notice most of your brain's activity as you move throughout your daily routine. This is only one facet of the complex processes involved in cognition. Cognition is often vaguely defined as higher mental processes, but the simple and more accurate definition would be the acquisition of knowledge. However, this acquisition and the use of knowledge involve many mental skills such as pattern recognition, memory, visual imagery, language, problem solving, and decision making. The cognitive tasks that we encounter in daily lives are reading, driving, studying, judging advertising claims, evaluating legal testimony, solving problems in the classroom, and making medical decisions. Abnormal psychology. Imagine you are in a coffee shop, sitting quietly and enjoying your coffee. Others around you are doing the same thing. Some of them are reading books, some are chit-chatting with their friends, and some are listening to music. In other words, it's a quite normal atmosphere for a coffee shop. Now, what if suddenly one of the customers starts yelling at herself? Would you still consider the situation to be normal? Here, the knowledge of abnormal psychology would help us understand whether the lady is actually suffering from any mental illness, or she is just exhausted from continuous failure at her work and married life, and she started resenting herself. In abnormal psychology, we try to explain and predict abnormal behavior by putting the same amount of focus on changing the abnormal pattern of functioning. Abnormal psychology tells us how people don't fit into behavior that everyone expects of them, when does a certain behavior become abnormal, what sets the criteria for normal and abnormal, what leads to abnormal behaviors to develop into disorders, and so much more. Abnormal psychology deals with psychological disorders. The contents of abnormal psychology actually attracts many students to study psychology. We want to figure out why we ourselves are crazy, why our friends are crazy, why our families are crazy. Basically, we are so drawn to the root of craziness. Although crazy is not a psychological term, it is a pop culture term. Because abnormal behaviors tend to be deviated from the expected behaviors, and they are so personal that we often find ourselves fascinated towards them, which is one of the factors that led people to be convinced that psychology is all about abnormal behavior, mental illness, and so on. Biopsychology. Biopsychology is basically the biology of behavior. It is an integrative field of neuroscience. Here we draw together knowledge from other neuroscientific disciplines and apply it to the study of behavior. Biopsychology approach believes that human behaviors are all consequences of genetics and physiology. It is actually the only subfield of psychology that studies thoughts and behaviors from a physical point of view. Biological psychology, as this field is sometimes known, has evolved over the past 65 years to become one of the most important niches within psychology field. That's because now more than ever, researchers are convinced that changes to the brain's chemistry can actually dictate human behavior. It was the biological psychology field that discovered how depression can be directly linked to the chemical imbalances in the brain, and it was the same industry that discovered how traumatic events or early life experiences can change the brain's development and functionality. Developmental psychology. In developmental psychology, human development is studied from the perspective of growth and change. Human development is both mundane and mysterious at the same time. At first glance, development is something that just simply happens. We notice that our bodies change, our personalities take form, our intellects begin to grow. The whole process seems effortless and inevitable. And yet there is mystery involved. Developmental psychology deals with the factors that influence this physical growth, personal and social intellectual development from conception until death. Social psychology. Social psychology is the domain of psychology that studies how we are affected by social situation and other people. Here we study individuals as members of groups with emphasis on their social and interpersonal relationships. Social psychology is the study of social interaction. It considers how attitudes are shaped by parents and peers, how people come to love or hate each other, how human beings influence each other's judgments, how propagandas influence us, how rumor spreads, and so on. Helping people in trouble, forming first impressions of individuals we've just met, conforming to group pressure, and deciding to make war and peace are all examples of topics that social psychologists study. Personality. Just like people have this misconception that psychology is all about abnormal behavior and mental illness and so on, there are some misconceptions people hold about the study of personality too. By personality, most people tend to understand that psychologists can take a look at one person and tell whether the person is lying, and if so, then why. Many people think that psychologists can tell what other people are thinking just by looking at them. Trust me, I'm a psychology student and I know the struggle. So what is personality? Personality is that field of psychology that considers the complexities of individual character. People have always been curious about the basic qualities of human nature, especially whether we are essentially good or bad. This question about human nature and human differences were of concern to the ancients, and they continue to fascinate and challenge 21st century psychologists. In asking why people behave as they do, today personality lies at the heart of psychology. Personality can be defined as the unique patterning of behavioral and mental processes that characterizes individual's interaction with the environment. Notice that the key word in this definition of personality is individual. While personality psychology is the study of individuals, it puts special emphasis on understanding what makes a person unique. Henry Murray once stated that every person is in some ways like all other people, in other ways like some other people, and in still other ways like no other person. While personality psychology considers all these aspects of the person, at present it gives more attention to how people differ. Learning. As we study learning in psychology, you might ask questions such as why don't all psychology students get good grades? They sure get to learn about all the tricks to memorize well and how to ace every course, etc., etc. The truth is, learning as a subject matter of psychology is quite different than you might think. Human beings are very complicated organisms. As a species, we've been living for a comparatively long time in environments that are constantly changing. To survive in these circumstances, we must adapt. Adaptation is the process of changing behavior to fit in changing circumstances. In psychology, we study learning as an adaptive process because it enhances our ability to change. Learning plays an important role in many areas of psychology. For example, in social psychology, learning may explain why children who watch televised violence tend to be more aggressive. Learning might also facilitate certain types of fears. It also plays a role in developmental processes such as identifying with the appropriate sex. So the point I really wanted to make in this video is that psychology is an integrative science. It includes so much more than just mental health issues. The essence of this discipline has everything to do with creating different ways of asking interesting questions and attempting to answer them through all kinds of scientific methods. The human mind is complicated and there is no single way to understand it. It must be studied from various perspectives. Harvard astronomer Owen Gingerich once said, "Human brain is by far the most complex physical object known to us in the entire cosmos." I hope that I was able to help you to build a general idea about what psychology deals with. If you have any questions about psychology, any requests about videos you want me to make, you can head to my Instagram and DM me. I'll link my Instagram in the description box. If you find this video helpful, then don't forget to subscribe so that you can join me in the world of psychology, where I try to explore how it applies to our lives, our minds, our hearts, and how it deepens our understanding of each other, our world, and ourselves. And also smash like and hit that notification button so that you are the first person to know when I upload a video. This is it for today, and I'll see you in my next video.